Happy Monday. Happy,
Thanks.
happy Queen Victoria's birthday.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. This is in Canada, this is the official start of the summer. It's
Ooh.
our long weekend where everybody gets their butts out and goes camping and does all of that wonderful first time outdoor stuff. I remember when I was 15, I took a swim in Lake Superior on May 24 weekend, and I had to wear a tracksuit to do it because it was so flippin' cold.
I'll bet. Next weekend is our big kickoff.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, how's your week been?
Busy.
I'm struggling.
You want to talk about it now or talk about it tomorrow?
Talk about it tomorrow, probably.
Okay, completely fair. All right. Just remember, if only it could just be one nice smooth curve up. It never is. There are always going to be slight dips and then up, and the idea is that as long as it's making its way up overall, just like the stock market,
Then
right?
there's hope.
Like your investments. There's going to be small changes down, but stay the course as long as it keeps going up. Excellent. All right, well, if you guys are ready to just jump in, then why don't we do that? Yeah, does that sound good? Okay. Before I do that, I should probably just get this in go mode. So today we're talking about the big topic, your ideal client profile, doing market research and clarifying your offer. Now, we've already individually worked on the ideal client profile this much. And I believe we've really already clarified each of your offers in the sense of understanding what will your client journey be? What is it that you're marketing in terms of your offer? What's the package that you're providing? So for Tiffany, that's the combination of the clinical nutrition care, as well as the stem cell, as well as supplements, and for Teresa, yours is going to be background coaching that goes along with the Optavia program that you share and offer and support your clients, right? But you don't have a whole lot of control over what that's going to cost and what that offer really looks like. So, well, I guess in one sense, that's a good thing. It meant it was really easy.
Yeah. Right.
It was really easy. There you go. Okay, so why don't we just get started then? We do have a few things to go through. I am not going to give you a full marketing lesson. I don't want to insult you that way. So if you ever have questions about marketing in general in terms of it as a theory, feel free to ask. I'd love to share the information with you, but I don't want to give you information that you don't need to build your business with. You're not trying to go into marketing and become a marketing director, am I right? Okay. So we're going to talk a little about demographic segmenting and why to do it. The ideal client profile, we're actually going to do an exercise today, touch on clarifying the offer, but the big deal today is really more about market research. That's what we're going to dive into if you guys are ready. Anybody have any questions so far? Nope. Perfect. All right. So you may see the terms ROI and ROAS in a lot of posts. People talk about ROI all the time, right? ROI is return on investment. And that can be an investment that you make monetarily into the stock market. It can be time that you spend in developing your personal development. It can be time, knowledge, money, any of those things that are being put in so that you can get something back in any area, not just marketing, is return on investment. Marketing specifically is the ROAS. So if you are seeing ROAS anywhere in posts that you're reading, then you know that they are specifically talking about what you're going to get back from what you spend on marketing. Spend, though, is not always money. So we will be talking about your return on your spend, but your spend is going to be time and effort. So one of the things we're going to get into as we go a little bit further along here is understanding how to identify which of the marketing initiatives that you are pursuing, which ones are working and which ones aren't. And if they're not working, we either need to change it and turn it into something that is going to work, or recognize that we need to abandon it. It's going to be one or the other, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we will be tracking how effective the things that you are actually doing, those steps that you're taking to connect with your audience. We'll be tracking how effective it is in terms of the time and energy that you're spending, so you're not wasting time and energy in places that aren't going to produce you anything. Does that make sense? Perfect. So what's a demographic? In marketing, we always talk about demographics. And demographics are really just those little individual qualities of an individual that describe their socioeconomic status. So this is not about her preparedness to make change. This is about things like age, gender, how much money comes into the house, do they have children, how many, what is their level of education, what is their marital status, what is their nationality or ethnicity. And the reason that we do that, you would not market to a 55-year-old white man the same way you would a 17-year-old African-American woman. You just wouldn't market to them the same way. They have different philosophical ideas, they have different needs, they have different interests, right? They have different values and beliefs that they come into things with. And so this is why, although this is a lot like stereotyping, there's a reason why that actually is effective in marketing. Okay, so that is what demographic segments are. And it is important to get that information. And we're going to talk about this in our market research in terms of identifying who your ideal client is, because it will affect, for example, you might say to an older audience, isn't that far out? But you would not say that to a younger audience. A younger audience would be, what do you mean far? Far, like, where are you talking about? They wouldn't get that far out means, that's so cool. They just wouldn't get it. Well, unless they have old parents, and then maybe they would. So this is why these elements actually matter. So we're going to dive into these just a little bit in terms of fine-tuning your ideal client so that we can make sure that we are becoming very obsessed with them, so that when we are creating our content, we've got them in mind, okay? So why do you want to segment? Why do you want to niche? Which is really what segmenting is. It's niching. So why do you want to do that? Well, this is actually, niching is actually standard across the board. Even Coca-Cola has niches. Even McDonald's has niches, right? So don't think that, you know, well, why do I need to do it? Because all of these other huge companies, just because Coca-Cola sells their product across all of the categories does not mean that's who they are trying to attract. In fact, Coca-Cola is actually targeting males between 17 and 24 with their advertising. The fact that that then has a halo effect on other demographics is a wonderful side effect, because they have a product that would have a broader appeal. But their advertising itself is actually aimed at that one specific age group. And they've done that very intentionally because of the potential for the market growth in that sense. So what happens when we don't segment is that we actually reduce the risk. What happens when we do segment, when we niche down, we actually reduce the risk of advertising to people that don't care, that would never in a million years buy our product or service. So some companies talk about impressions, which is the number of people that saw their advertising, but that's really irrelevant to converting your client, your potential clients into actual clients. Only want to market to people who actually have the potential to buy from us. That's our goal, especially as a small business. We don't have the million and $1 trillion budgets that Coca-Cola and McDonald's have. Am I right? Wouldn't that be nice? So what we are doing by niching is we're actually reducing the amount of time and effort we need to put in, because we know we're not actually specifically targeting people who would never be in the market for what we offer. The other thing is that having that actually means that we will increase how much we get back from it, because we will have put in less. So we're increasing that return simply by reducing how much we've put in. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
The other reason that you want to segment is, believe it or not, 95, and I got this statistic off of a few different places. One said 85, four others said 95% of new product launches in the US will actually fail. And it is specifically because of poor segmentation, which means a poor identification of who they're actually selling to. So a product launch could include the services that we offer as coaches. It's not specifically a product that you can hold in your hand. So the other reason that you might want to do it is it actually allows you to improve the product or service that you offer. So in the case of somebody like Tiffany, who's got a product that can actually service a huge wide variety, and that would be the X39 and the X49, they can service a much greater audience than what you will zero in on as part of your niche. But imagine at some point you needed to evolve a little bit, then doing market research is one of the ways that you can actually do that. So you may be evolving your offer to be more responsive to what the market needs. That's another reason to do it. It says there again about reducing your time and effort. But the other thing is that it does increase your authority. And as we talk about being able to sell to people, know, like, and trust, the trust element, that's about establishing authority in the marketplace. Why would anybody listen to me? So establishing authority in the marketplace is part of the reason that you want to segment. So I've probably done this verbally with you guys, but just in case, I want to do it in a way that's like kind of in your face for the visual folks among us. There is very much a difference between the way you receive a message when it's niched and when it isn't. So often, especially as we're networking, and this is something that you'll both start to do a lot more of as you move through your business, networking itself is just a matter of making connections with people that can help you to build and scale your business, even if they're not specifically a potential client. That's what networking is, right? So if you're networking and somebody says to you, so what do you do for a living? And you say, oh, I'm a business coach. Oh, great. That's nice. Awesome. Where do you go with that? It makes it really difficult to have a conversation, right? You know, what do you do? Oh, I provide sustainable weight loss and serenity. I actually got these from Facebook. These are not ours. Literally went through some networking threads and I looked for some poor examples of what to say when somebody asks you what you do, especially when you're given a marketing opportunity. Here's the thing, even when you're making a comment on one of those networking threads, that's an opportunity to promote yourself. So you want to be putting your best foot forward, even when you're commenting, not just when you're putting up a post, because who knows who's reading those comments? There's a lot of people that go through the comments, right? So if you have put something in the comments that catches someone's eye because they go, oh, that's me. Oh, I need that, right? So use every opportunity to actually advertise, and saying something like, oh, I manage people's money. Oh, great. Well, I don't have any money. So you're obviously not for me. Now, that being said, if you told me that you actually helped me get out of debt, or if you told me that you helped me turn, $20 a week into however much of a nest egg, we have different options in Canada than you do. So I don't even know how to, you don't have the TFSA, but even still, so we won't go with that one. Your 401k, maybe you just put, there you go. Yeah, Tiffany's going, that's one of them. All right. So I think I have mentioned this before. I do actually get more friend requests, network building opportunities, people joining my group as a result of the comments that I leave on those kinds of threads than I do from making my own posts. So, and I actually have a case study that I'll be sharing with you in a little bit about the value of investing in one of those monthly memberships in one of those really large Facebook groups. Whether it is or isn't worth it, and what things to look for, because I ran my own experiment earlier this year and paid for a membership for 3 months. It turned out to not be worth it for me, just saying. Anyway, spoiler alert.
I was going to ask how that was going. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I've canceled it. There you go. Actually, May 1st was the last day that I had it. So now imagine, instead of saying I'm a business coach, these niche statements were found on Threads. Instead, you say, I help introverted moms who want to launch their online service-based business without feeling overwhelmed by all things marketing and reach their first 5K month. Hold on, actually, this is a long one. I've got to take a big breath in between, but still, you don't take a big breath when you're reading usually. But do you understand how now, as a person who is an introverted mom, and I've been thinking about potentially starting my own business and didn't really have the first clue and went, oh my gosh, I just don't know enough. Especially if marketing were my concern, I would be absolutely all over this and going, oh my gosh, it's like she's speaking my language. And I would reach out and start asking questions potentially, or I would certainly at least go and follow her. At the very least, I would be interested and go and check out what she's doing. That kind of interest generation is sometimes equally valuable, right? Sustainable weight loss and serenity. And Teresa's going, wait a minute, is that one mine? No, it's not. It's somebody else's. So
I like it.
Yeah, right? I
Yeah.
help women over 40 lose weight and turn frustration and fatigue into your healthiest life. Now, if you were a person who has been struggling with weight and you're over 40 and you're just frustrated with trying all the things and you're just frankly tired of it, you might read this and say, oh, I'm interested. I have to go check that out. And again, it's just, oh, I want to check this out. It's the difference between saying, I know what you do and I have no idea what you do. I know what you do and I'm intrigued and I want to know more versus, oh, that's nice. That's the difference that niching and segmenting can have. Just a couple of other examples. I help people access legal advice instead of I help solopreneurs and small businesses in Canada, specifically in the US, afford legal and blah, 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 right? I'm a holistic healer. I help self-driven women and girls unleash their healing potential. So these, when you expand on it and really tell people who I serve, how I serve them, what I'm going to help them achieve, suddenly they go, oh, I have that. I'm that kind of person. I'd like to achieve that. You've created enough interest just from one statement. That's kind of cool, right? So that's the difference between having a niche and not having a niche. And in marketing speak, we would also call that demographics and segmentation. We have already started our ideal client profiles, right? For the last couple of weeks, Teresa, I know you've been kind of, dabbling in, what do I want her to be like? What's the kind of person I want to deal with? Who do I want to fill my calendar with so that every day when I wake up and I look at my calendar, I'm like, yes, I get to see Teresa and Tiffany today. I was so excited. Oh, and I saw Cheryl too. Woo-hoo! Right. And then there was Lisa and then there was Amy. And you just get so excited about the kind of day you get to have because these are the kind of people you actually feel passionate about helping. And as I think you all know, I only work with people who want to help others. If your whole goal is to make more money, I am not the girl for you. Do I want you to make money? I certainly do. I want you to make money so that you can go off and take care of your passion projects for the same reason that I want to make money. I have my own passion projects I want to be able to invest in, right? So, ready? We're going to start talking actually about the opposite side of what we started talking about. So as much as it's important to think about who you do want to serve, it's also important to think about who don't you want to serve. And the reason you want to do this is because then you can actually start, when they say certain things, when they comment a certain way, when you've interacted and little, it kind of gives structure to those little instinctive alarm bells that can go off. Do you ever meet a person and you instinctively go, I don't know what it is about them, but I just, no, not interested. Do you ever get completely repulsed by somebody at the first meeting? And that's your intuition kicking in. And you can still have intuition through an online media. That's absolutely possible. I'm not telling you that you can't, but when you're in business building mode, your focus is not typically on your intuition. And as much as I love your intuition to be fully engaged when you're working, I know from my own experience, it isn't always. And so sometimes your radar for the kinds of people that you actually find, ooh, don't want to work with them, right? I can think of an example of somebody that I met with a couple of weeks ago. And as soon as I actually had a face-to-face meeting with her, I thought, wow, no. And so I did not offer her a spot in our program. I gave her some resources and said, there you go, you can check those out. Right? But it allows you to be selective so that you can have space for the next person that comes along. I could never have made space for Amy, for example, who I love, if I had allowed this other person in. Does that make sense? So this is why we want to identify what are some of the character traits that we don't want to deal with. We will ultimately be writing a non-ideal client profile. But I want us to start for the next 5 minutes. I think I gave us 5 minutes. We are going to write down specifically the characteristics, those kinds of traits. And I've given some examples here. People who are really demanding, who expect you to be either constantly available or, you know what I mean, right, about demanding. So people who are overly demanding, people who have unrealistic expectations. Well, I don't understand. Well, why shouldn't I should just be able to do this, like this. And then you're managing their expectations all the time. So, well, we've talked about this, as we talked about in the beginning, and when you have to rehash things over and over again, right? Mean-spirited. I think that one goes without saying. Nobody wants to work with a mean-spirited person. For example, you don't want to be speaking to people who won't invest in the solution you offer. I mean, we think that that's obvious, but I've talked with 4 people now about your niching. And the one thing that wasn't immediately apparent to you was, I need to make sure that my client can afford what I'm offering. We forget that that actually has to be an element of. And so now we want to start considering, oh, how will she afford that? So instead saying, I don't want somebody that can't afford it. Because spending time nurturing people who simply can't afford it is not going to move your business forward. And I'm even turning red. I can feel myself turning red as I say that, because I know how that sounds. I'm not suggesting that spending time with people who can't afford what you offer is a waste of time. I'm simply saying be sparing with the amount of time you give those people. And instead concentrate on the ones that are actually, making your dreams come true. You can't fill from an empty cup. Or sorry, you can't pour from an empty cup. On and on and on it goes. So I want you to take 5 minutes. Does everybody have a pen and paper or a keyboard ready? Okay. I'm going to ask you to take 5 minutes, please. And I'm actually doing this exercise with you. We're going to take 5 minutes to write down all the character traits that we can imagine that we don't want. And if you're open to sharing a couple of them when we're done, I am going to ask for that, okay? Excuse me. All right.
I just saw your countdown. I love it.
I was going to ask you what I thought of that, actually. What you thought of
I
that.
love it.
It's an add-in in PowerPoint. Anyway, keep thinking. Sorry. Only 1.5 minutes. Oh no, I'm running out of space.
Oh my gosh.
In fairness, I knew I was doing this, so I have put thought into this.
Even if I knew, I would still have a problem.
You guys look like you're looking up and not writing. Are we all
I'm done.
all set to go? Okay. I wonder what happens. I don't know what happens when the timer runs out.
Well, then let's let it run
Let's
out.
find out. It's so exciting. 5, 4, 3, 2. It's like the New Year's countdown. You're ready. Yeah!
Okay.
Just
I
about
was
to start, isn't it?
expecting at least a ding.
Right? So was I.
Yeah.
What's up with that? All right. Okay. Anybody open to sharing 1 or 2 of the things that they've written down? And if you want me to go first, I'm happy to do that.
I used most of yours, because they're very good. The
Okay.
one I added of my own was questions the process continually.
Right. And there's a difference between help me understand and challenging, don't you think?
Yeah, challenging. Yeah. That's the good one. And then the other one I said is someone who isn't committed.
Right. Now, can you imagine how you would know? What kinds of things might they say that gives you an indication? So that'll be the next step, Teresa. And one of the things that I will do, if you're struggling at all, I may have talked to you about this before. I use a tool called the Emotional Culture Deck. And I'm actually going to be doing a standalone workshop on this next month that's separate from this group. But I will do the session with you guys if you want it. And what it is it's kind of like a little card game. And it's 108, I think, 108 emotions. Oh, you can't even see them. All right. But it's like 108 different emotions. And what we're doing is we're actually going through and we're answering questions about what do we want and not want to feel in certain situations, and what are the words and the language and the phrases or the actions that we will see, feel, experience to know that that's happening. And then from there, how do we deal with it? So it really helps to create emotional intelligence. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know. I'd be happy to do it with us as a group.
I am. I looked up, I was going to get a deck like that, and I was surprised at how expensive they were.
They're not cheap. I mean, they're not inexpensive.
Right. But it might be something worth it, because I always thought of myself as somebody who knew who I was, and I was in tune with others. I could read people pretty good. mean, I still think I can do that, but when you start throwing out these things about how I feel and keep asking me why, I mean, I just immediately go blank. I have no idea. And then I stress about it because I have no idea.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't want
it's
to stress you.
ridiculous. I know, it's ridiculous.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want you to
It's
stress
okay.
about it.
It's not you, it's me.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't know if this will make you feel any better, but most people only think there's about 10 emotion words in the, happy, sad, mad, frustrated, guilty. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we struggle to come up with the basic framework for emotions. So having more words and language around emotion and understanding where it comes from and how to handle it when it comes up, this is like stuff that this is our society in general are really only just, what would you say, the last 30 to 40 years exploring emotional intelligence as an actual factor in our development. So
it's fascinating.
It is.
And I love that idea. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I tell you what, I will make sure that you guys are coming to that workshop next month. That one's a 4-hour workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's a big one.
Okay.
Yeah, Tiffany's like, maybe not. Maybe I'll watch the replay.
I thought a couple hours, but 4 hours, I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, we'll make time because I'd like to check it out for sure.
Okay. The reason that I used the emotional culture deck when I was actually running organizations as a way of helping to shape our corporate culture. So I've since transitioned it into using it with clients simply because I have found that most people don't have the words to describe or explain.
Yes.
It's normal that we don't. So I find that this is a really useful way. And I have virtual cards that I'll be sharing in that event as well. So you can print them, cut them, and if you want to put them on, like one of the things, I know somebody actually printed out the pages and then cut out index cards and glued them on.
Nice.
And then they actually put little notes. It was kind of, they were, mind you, they're highly analytic, that person. So and this is the thing, the more analytic we are, the more it's interesting that analytics have so much difficulty with emotion, because we will pick something apart, right? And try to get right down into it, but not emotion.
Yeah.
Emotion is not rational. And analytics tend to be much more rational.
Huh.
There you go. So
right.
That explains that anyway, right? Okay, well, those are great ones. How about you, Tiffany? Any that you'd be willing to share about non-ideal client qualities?
Yeah, there's a couple.
Okay.
It's individuals who don't really value learning new things. There's a lot of people that are very closed-minded. They don't like anything challenging their status quo. Yeah. The other thing is just having, I've had people I've run into with a negative outlook on everything, no matter how positive you try to present things.
Feeling that.
They will still find the negative. Yeah, no matter what, you could give them the most positive outlook. Yeah, and some people just do it, but it can turn into something draining though too if you're trying to help. Yeah.
And that's what, so you're thinking of it from a couple of perspectives then, is what I'm hearing. And one of those is to protect your own energy, because they are draining. They are energy vampires. So wonderful, wonderful. I also wrote something about that. I actually included wants a DFY solution. So wants it done for you, meaning they don't have to do any work. That's not what this program is. Could I do that for them? Sure, I could. That's not how I work though, right? The other one, so I also wrote demonstrates closed-mindedness. And then I put, after that, I put says, I know that. And then doesn't say but or in. I know that, but I was wondering, I know that, and I also was thinking, versus I know that. Oh, then I guess you don't need to be here. Bye-bye. Right? Yes. Okay. Try again, Tiffany. You got to press. Oh, oh. No. Is it that button again? Remember that button? Well, we were meeting last week and her son came over and anyway, was able to help us. So one of the other things that I included in mine was I will not deal with people who are sexist, racist, discriminatory in any way, shape, or form. I just won't deal with them. And in fact, if somebody were to join our program and then start demonstrating that behavior, I would refund their money and ask them to leave. I feel that strongly about that particular character trait. But that is an that's a full stop, get out.
Yeah.
So and notice that wasn't even a nice way of saying it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't even say that nicely. Anyway, so I do have a full list. I would be happy to take a picture of this and send this to you guys if you're interested in seeing it. It may prompt some ideas for you.
Yes.
These ones are mine, and I'm not even being specific to the way that I actually provide help and clarity. If I were to continue on and talk about now in terms of my actual offer, what don't I want? Well, for you, Teresa, you would want somebody who is, more than 20 pounds overweight, perhaps. Tiffany, for you, you may be saying to yourself, well, if they're doing the pain scale, I need them to be at least at a 7 on a daily basis. So, so if they're anything less than a 7, then they're not good. And if they have anything less than 30 pounds to lose, then they're non-ideal. Right? So we can find ways to look at your exact offer and also develop some non-ideal things. And what you're trying to do when you do that is, in some of the post styles that I'm going to teach you, you are going to say, this is for people who, right? So when you're saying that, you are going to be able to detail out some specific things that your ideal client specifically has. This is for women who are 40 plus, who have a minimum of 35 pounds to lose, who have tried numerous other diets in the past and were unsuccessful. Do you see how you start to build? And you really start to fine tune into, this is who this is for. And that's part of the niching exercise, right?
Yes, okay. I agree that the niching is all right.
Yeah.
I just worry that it eliminates somebody that it could help.
Okay.
So we can talk more about that.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. We can talk about it now if you want. We absolutely
really
can. Yeah.
I hate I'm going to throw your time off.
That's okay. We'll take a couple of minutes.
I mean, I know all the reasons why you need to do it.
Yep.
And still, I hesitate.
So, okay, I'm going to put it to you in a way you might not have thought of. If you don't help them, who will?
Well, probably somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So is the worry that they won't get the help that they need, or is the worry that you will lose the sale?
I think the worry is I would lose the sale because the reason why they may not be ideal with so much less weight to lose is because then they won't need the program as long, right? Okay. And that's where you make your money is from people on program. But the flip side to that is, what if they know somebody that fits the niche that I've had? Then that person might not ever find out about it if the other person hadn't have done it.
Or they could be having a conversation and the woman says, oh my goodness, you know what? I say this to Martin all the time. Sorry. I say this to Martin all the time. I read a post oh my gosh, that came up in a post I read the other day.
Yeah, I say that too.
Posted about that. Now, could that be because I do my business online and so therefore I'm reading a lot more posts? That's possible. Could it be that I think about my business 24/7 and therefore I'm constantly in that mode? Sure, that could also be.
I know, so do I.
Right?
I can't turn it off.
But
Yeah.
I really do think when somebody reads yours and they say, oh, well, I've only got 20 pounds to lose, so I guess that's not for me. They're thinking, I guess it's not for, oh, but it's for Brenda. Well, I wonder if Brenda would be interested. You just naturally will say, oh, well, if it's not for me, then it's for. There's like this little trick of the mind that happens that when we exclude ourselves, we include someone else.
Okay.
And if you think about the whole notion of opposites, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? When you think about that, if it's not for me, then it must be for somebody else. And we can't help with our elastic brain. We can't help but have the spring effect, the pull effect. You know, the elastic. Are you picturing the elastic like I am?
Yes.
You're probably not. Sorry.
I am. You're doing this. I'm seeing it.
And I can't remember which law that is, that physical law. I can't remember. It just like walked right out of my brain about which law number that is, or the law of blank. It just literally walked out. Tiffany will know. It's not the law of attraction. Anyway, so I think that's, we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, Teresa, because I think that goes once again into the sales mindset. And so we are going to be dealing with sales mindset, if I'm not mistaken, next week.
Okay.
And the sales mindset is about helping you to get into that frame of mind to believe that there's enough for you.
Yes. Yes.
Right? There's enough.
Well, I mean, there's so many people in the world that, yeah, no, yes.
And let's face it, Optavia themselves are not foolish enough to have so many health coaches, active health coaches, that they're actually going to make you unsuccessful, because then that puts a sour taste in your mouth. So as an organization, I'm not going to say that they're going to put a cap on it, but they're going to be conscious of making sure that they're keeping their levels appropriate in terms of the number of health coaches.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about having faith in them for that. And then we're going to talk about having faith in yourself, that there is enough. All right.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So the next part is actually the part that we have been at least touching on for the last little while. And that's the ideal, the positives. So these were the kinds of things that I was saying to you. You were already, both of you were already starting, and so was Amy, starting to write down all of the different qualities that would make you say, oh yes, absolutely. Now, these specifically come out of my list. So when you look at that, I want you to say, wow, I'm kind, I have integrity, I'm an action taker, I'm a problem solver, right? That's, you fall into my ideal client. So you have got these things. So what are the things that you want? And again, I know you've already started this list, so we're only going to take 5 minutes for this one. Ready, set, go. You're making a list of the qualities that you find desirable in your ideal client.
Your clock stopped.
Oh, there you go. Maybe I hadn't wiggled my mouse enough. You feel like you got all your list there, Miss Tiffany? Yeah. And how about you, Teresa? How are you doing there?
Yeah, I'm good.
You've been working on it for a while, so I can imagine. I thought this might be too much time. Well, now how do I stop it then? All right, fine. We'll just move on. There you go. That's easy. All right. This is actually the biggest part of the ideal client profile, other than actually completing it and writing it into a single page. Why do you think I want you to put so much effort into your ideal client profile? What can you imagine is the reason I want you to do that?
So that if we have a clear idea of who we want, then we'll attract them.
Mm-hmm. Right. So just like with the Dear Future Diary, the more clear we become in our mind, the better we are at manifesting that, because it allows us to actually see it when it shows up. Right?
Yeah.
So this is why. So I am going to ask you to quickly jot down, how old is your ideal client? Are they married, divorced, separated, widowed, single, common law? Do they have kids? How many? I'm even going to get you to go so far to give all of these people names. And I know you're thinking, come on. It doesn't mean that that's my ideal client avatar has the name Rebecca. Her children are Liam and Lorelai.
I think it's awesome that you do that.
Now, I am a really visual person. Reading and writing are a subset of visual learning style. Not everybody's a reader and writer, though. For me, this helps me to really create that super clear movie picture in my head that I see life in. This allows me to create the scene, if you will. And that's what makes it better for me. Oh, and where in the world are they? So for example, one of the things that I had written on my non-ideal is that they must be fluent in English. They don't have to be an expert English speaker, but we have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
And I was told the other day that I use language that is not for the average person, that the way that I speak. So if I were working or dealing with somebody who does not have a good grasp of English, I might be going right over their head and under their feet. So for me, that was an important thing. So for me, it's not about where they were in the world, although I did pick that my particular woman is in the UK. It's not that where they are, but are there things like that matter? Are there time zones that you simply, I mean, let's face it, with my Australian clients, I am up at 6 a.m. meeting with them, or I'm meeting with them at 9 p.m. So if I have one at 6 a.m. and one at 9 p.m. because I can only do 2 or 3 because of time zone changes. So put that into consideration in terms of geography. For Teresa, yours has to be an American state, like a state of the USA, or a
I don't know what it's
territory.
called. I can't remember.
Is it called a territory? Territory, okay. So, or a territory of the US. So there you go. Anyway, I'm going to give you 5 minutes for that one as well. This one probably won't even take the full 5 minutes. In fact, I can tell from Tiffany, she's done. She's like, yeah, I'm fast. You were talking, I was writing. I like to make efficient use of time. You talk too much, Danielle. And if you are done early, Teresa, you just let me know and we'll. I'm actually
Yeah,
going back to that screen so you can see the screen, okay? So even though the timer is going.
well, I don't know how to answer some of them. Like,
Well,
why would it matter to me and what I'm doing if they're married or if they have kids?
so when you're crafting your message and you're talking about the things that they like to do, the things that are missing from their life, maybe one of those things is the fun, maybe the spark is missing out of their marriage. Maybe she feels ugly and therefore, so you understand what I'm saying. When you
Yes,
feel ugly, it does affect your marriage. So you see how it'll have little halo effects on other parts of their life and how they feel about those. And that's actually going to be our next step, is to start talking and digging into their head about how do they feel about certain things. And I'm not as worried about this part being done as I am the other 3 parts. This part is to help you get a clearer picture in your mind, because once we've got the ideal client profile, we actually can start pulling bits out of it that it's like our content starts to write itself.
right.
Yeah. You can remember I got like 5 ideas for Tiffany's fibromyalgia patients. So assuming that I have chosen, the right characteristics for your ideal client. I am providing you with a handout today that has all of these in it. So if you are feeling stuck on this right now, we can move on. This does not have to be accomplished right now. Okay. I don't want you to feel like, oh, the pressure is on. All right, here's the really meaty part. This is truly the meaty part. Now we're getting inside their head. Not all women will specifically work with women. Sometimes actually your ideal client is a man. So I've said give him or her a name. And obviously any other gender is perfectly fine as well. I want you to go on the internet and I want you to choose a photo. I want you to just, is she a businesswoman? Type in the words businesswoman into a Google search. Not at this moment, I don't mean that. But if you type in, bohemian woman. So for Tiffany, who is very, sustainable, ecological, all of those things, maybe her ideal client looks like one of those old 60s hippies. And bohemian woman comes up. And so you grab a picture that actually, you look at them, you go, oh my gosh, that's her. That's my ideal client. That's my Rebecca. And again, it's about creating a visual of the person that helps to solidify in your mind. No, obviously a model in a photo shoot is not going to end up, that's not our intention. I don't mean you're bringing that one person in. So what we want to do is we want to talk about, so what motivates them? What do they do with their day? How do they spend their free time? What is it that they dream of becoming? What specific values or beliefs do they have? So if we were to imagine a person who has chronic pain, a person with chronic pain may believe that they will never get past this, that this is never going to be done, that this is the rest of their life. That could be a belief that they hold on to. A person that's heavy may believe that, oh, I'm too old now, Teresa. So thinking about your women who are mostly going to be menopausal. And we have this belief in us that once we're menopausal, oh, there's no hope for me now. I'll never lose this weight. These are the kinds of beliefs and values that I'm talking about. Does she value integrity the way you would value integrity? Will she be looking for that in you? Right? You also want to consider, how is their problem affecting them? What is the emotional impact this is having? What is the physical impact? What is the environmental relation? Like, think about impacts. And then why do they need your solution? And by your, meaning in capital letters, what is it specifically that you offer that they need? Okay. And be descriptive. So this one is a very time-consuming, thought-provoking exercise. This is not one we're going to get done in 5 minutes. Would you like 5 minutes to start getting a handle on it, or shall we just move on to the next phase of this?
Just move on. I'm good. And if Tiffany's okay with that.
Yep, she's nodded as well. Okay. So the next step then is actually to create a bio. The same way that you might see a bio of the CEO of an organization, the new doctor that moves into town. I don't know. Gosh, there's so many places and ways that bios are used, right? They're often used in PR campaigns and sending them out for people to be public speakers and those kinds of things. So we're going to actually create a full bio, and this one is going to be in sentence form, right? Our goal is to have everything on one page, because then that forces you to only focus on the important stuff and not some of the other stuff. But I don't want you to lose your notes and your little jots and your brainstorms, because you may actually be referring back to those at some point when it comes to creating your content. I know I have. Okay. We are, oh, I didn't finish that point here. Create a point form list of their current blank is supposed to be their current most pressing problems. Okay. So I have not given time for this. Instead, what I've got here are 2 examples of ideal, well, obviously this one would be mine because it's Rebecca. So meet Rebecca. Who is she? So you can see, meet Rebecca. Rebecca has recently had her 40th birthday. She's so disappointed in herself and believes that others are secretly feeling the same way about her. After all, grown-ups have their shit together by now and she doesn't. Right? So this is something she's thinking that this is her beliefs and values that I'm pointing out in that one. She feels miserable about how far she hasn't gotten and how far away her goals and dreams still are. This is from my beginning. This is my very first ideal client profile when I was working with people who have burnout, people pleasing, overachieving. That's what this one was. But she knows she should have finished university by now. She should have started her own business. She should have done this. She should have done that, and she hasn't. Her anxiety is much worse now than it ever was as a child. All of the experts in herself. So I'm talking about what experience does she have? The experts in her self-help books and the therapist she saw years ago say perfection is not possible and there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And she's sure they must be right. But it's like a broken record in her head, not good enough. So do you see how I'm trying to capture? And yes, this is going to force you to start really honing in on communicating the ideas simply, clearly, and briefly. That's the purpose of this exercise. Can you write a 3,000-word post? Well, you can. There's nothing stopping you. Facebook will let you.
Okay.
There's no limit on characters, but who's going to read it? My ideal client would. Would yours? Right? So here's the question though, would yours? And this is all about really getting to know who you want to work with, right? On the other side here, we've got Charlotte, blah, 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 blah. She's, she's got a business and she's been working in it for years. She's built it from the ground up. She's very stressed and overworked. For Charlotte, the point is to get her systems and processes. I want you to notice though, down at the bottom, there is this section that says, what are her problems? So in Rebecca's case, it's growing up, she never felt like she fit in anywhere. Growing up, she felt like mom would stop loving her if she misbehaved, blah, 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 blah. It also, though, goes on to say she needs someone in her corner to show her the way. So it's not just about specifically what the problems are, it's what does she need right now? And this really is, this is where we're getting the meat and potatoes for our posts, is once we've written that whole content and practice writing in this brilliant way that helps us to succinctly communicate our idea in the post, we now have this list of specific problems that our ideal client is facing, right? And what she needs to solve them. It's like putting point A and point B together in one little section. But typically we have difficulty coming up with the what are the problems until we've gone through all of these other steps. And this is the point of going through this full exercise. It doesn't have to take weeks. It doesn't have to, depending on how clear your mind is, how focused you are on your ideal client in terms of who they are and what they need and what problem you solve and how you solve it. This could be a one-day activity, depending on where you are in your niching process in your mind, and understanding what your offer is going to be at its final delivery spot. But it does cause us to get a little bit outside our comfort zone and really put ourselves in the shoes of someone else. Here's something I want to suggest to you as one of the ways to look at ideal client profiling. When I was doing my ideal client profiles, I knew that who I wanted to serve was a previous version of me. I knew that's who I wanted to serve. So if you know that it's a previous version of you, you actually know yourself pretty darned intimately. The challenge, though, is to say, okay, well, I'm here now. I'm at point B. Now you kind of have to do this. What was it like to be back there again? I'm here now. I have new insights. I have new learning. I have new experiences, right? I'm in a different place now. Remembering what it was like back there is not easy because we don't know how to peel away the stuff that we've learned in the journey.
Mhm.
This exercise helps you to basically unlearn those things and get into, I keep calling it the whole, but getting into that place where you started. Okay, so this is all with the intention of creating excellent content that attracts your people, creates an impact on them, makes them go, holy crap, she gets me. Makes them go, I want more, causes them to reach out and say, tell me more, because it's not enough to just go, that's interesting, I'd love to know more about that. But if we are creating content that actually inspires action on their part, that's our goal. And that's the purpose of this whole exercise. And once you're on the other side of it, you really see, oh, wow, if I hadn't gone through that, in the process of doing it, I know it can feel painful, but once you get to the other side, I promise you, very, very valuable. All right, I promised you a handout, so please watch your email inbox for the handout on specifically this ideal client profiling exercise. And it does include spaces so that if you do want to be able to transfer everything onto that, you certainly can and keep it all in one space. Everybody likes to manage and organize their stuff just a little bit differently, and I'm perfectly, that's your deal, not my deal. I actually went out today and bought 6 notebooks because I decided that writing everything in one notebook was no longer working for me. So I now have individual notebooks for very individual things. All right.
Perfect.
It works. It works.
Yeah.
They're just those tiny, you know, those, remember the kaye? Oh, you won't have called them kaye. What will you have called them? These are kayes. That's a kaye.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's just this, it's this little, and inside it's just, you know, a kaye is a workbook. It's French.
okay.
Sorry. All of Canada calls this a kaye, whether we're English speaking or not. If you want to know how that's spelled, that's C-A-H-I-E-R. Anyway, clarifying your offer. So I feel like in this group, we have now actually already spent enough time on clarifying our offer. We're there. We know what the journey is going to be, what the problem is that we solve. We know the price that we're putting it out at. Teresa, in your case, it's pretty much predetermined. We know how long to expect. Like if we're talking about the Octavia or the Optima 5-in-1, is that what it's called? Optima 5-in-1. What is the 1 to 2 pounds a week? I think is the expected. So a person who is 70 pounds.
Yeah, 1 to 3.
1 to 3 should expect 35 weeks. You're going to be doing this for 35 weeks, just so you know. Right. So it's a 6-month commitment that you're making, right, to reach your goal, blah, blah. So, so I won't go into a lot of detail on this, but clarifying your offer would be the next step normally after doing the ideal client profile, but it's absolutely critical to have that done before we start working on market research.